Once again, it's so you still got your trip, don't know right or wrong. Send your letters to the show so we can talk. Get the answers to your question because we speak that truth. Sometimes you doubt yourself, lost your health. Take this on the business, you believe that Jesus knows your wealth. Keep it moving, spirit flowing because we're here to go. Someone to lean on when you follow against the 8 and 9 and the song. Once again, it's on. You're listening to the only morning show when people at night. That's right. It is the Sinclair Show coming to you live and direct. And yes, as the theme song said, don't miss a moment of tonight's show. First, I want to thank all of you all who continue to send your mailbag questions, comments, and anything that's on your mind to sinclairtalk@outlook.com. I'm going to continue to address as much as I can each night I'm on the air to reach you, because you all are the valued listener. And what that means is, truthfully, if it wasn't for you all, I could be back there getting some sleep right now. But I've been gone for a minute, so now I'm back in the game again. I was a little under the illicit weather, if you will, but it's all good. So listen, man, since I've been gone, there's been a little stuff going on in the hood, so I just need to, tonight we're going to have a few conversations, right? And I don't want y'all to get in y'all feelings. Although, truthfully, when you be a little under the weather, sometimes you don't even be caring what people think when you come back on the scene, because you be like, you know what? Man, it is what it is. And so, people, there go your homegirl, Nikki Carter. What's up, Nikki Carter? Glad to see you on the show. But anyway, and Nikki, you know what? I think I'm going to be nice to you tonight. I think I'm not going to be my normal self. I'm not going to pick with you. We're just going to take everything in stride tonight, if that's okay with you, Nikki Carter. Is that all right? So listen, tonight we are going to have a little bit of dialogue about, because y'all know how I be ear hustling everywhere I go, just listening to the conversation of the people who be around me, right? And so as you all saw, the theme of tonight's show, hold on, what is Nikki talking about? She talking about, I would hope so because I'm the show angel. Well, first of all, Nikki Carter, Dr. Linda Gary, glad to see you on the show tonight. So, Nikki Carter, first of all, you are not a show angel. Matter of fact, I done almost kicked you off this show so many times it don't even matter. But I digress tonight. Because as I said, because I'm a little bit better, then I'm gonna take everything tonight in stride. But tonight's conversation, I'm going to allow it to begin with a theory of mine. And that theory is you should stop letting unqualified people narrate your life. Listen to what I said again, because I don't want y'all to, I know how sometimes y'all misunderstand or misquote me. So like they do at church, you know, like if you had your little church program, you could write down what the text was, the night's text, if you will. What's going on, JC? Glad to see you tonight. Tonight's text, if you will, is stop letting unqualified people narrate your life. Now, the first question that one might ask is, why this topic and why now? And like I said, I be ear hustling. So sometimes, you know, you just sitting around and people be talking and you be listening and you formulate an opinion. And so what we're going to be talking about is something that destroys dreams, relationships, businesses, confidence, and even peace of mind. And I want to say this because some of you out there are peace vampires. All right. Now, I'm just calling it that. I don't want y'all to get mad. Ty Matthews, what's going on, girl? Glad to see you on the air. But some people are peace vampires because they don't want you to, they will suck the life out of you having a positive day, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's at church. Wherever you are, it's always one or two people that don't want you to have a positive day. And so we're going to talk about, first and foremost, stop taking advice from people that ain't never been through what you've been through. Listen, there was somebody at the job today, and for all of those people who work where I work, you gonna know if I'm talking about the situation that they was humoring me about today. But let me just say this. So I was listening to some people at work talk today, and there was a individual who had proclaimed that she was fed up with the job. Now we all done been there before, where we had our days feel of the work environment, and the person said, you know, I'm sick of this. I'm about to get them these keys. Now, if I'm being transparent, I done had them days. Matter of fact, I keep my work keys on a separate key ring just in case I wake up one morning and say, hey, I got to take flight. But this, in the midst of this conversation where this lady said, I'm tired of this and I'm about to give them the keys, one of her little homegirls, work homegirls, because I don't know if they cool outside of the job or not, because, you know, at my particular level, I don't get in nobody's personal business. But one of her work homegirls said, girl, I wouldn't allow them to treat me that way. JC said, hold on, JC said, I just heard a quote, don't let nobody with nothing tell you something. Dang, JC, you must have been listening to some similar jargon as I have. But anyway, nonetheless, so when I heard the lady say to the other one, I wouldn't let nobody make me feel that way. If I was you, I would quit. And I said, wow, that's a little harsh, but maybe she knows something I don't know. Another one says to her, girl, you better slow down a minute. You know you got bills to pay. So she's getting a lot of advice from some work home girls about how the impact of what she's feeling should impact her decision making. And I begin to think to myself, I wonder which one of these ladies has the greatest amount of influence, and will it be enough to trigger her in one direction or another? Marcus, keep what's going on, big dog. And so I got to thinking, stop letting these unqualified people narrate what you do in your life. This lady is at the brink for today, stressed out, don't like what was said to her. You know, it is evaluation time, so it might have been some on the evaluation that somebody didn't like, but she said, I ain't gonna keep letting them come at me like that. They about to get these keys. You got one talking about, girl, I wouldn't let nobody make me feel that way. If I was you, I gonna step on out there. I gonna get my little quick time in. The other one reminded her about the possibilities of some fiscal obligations, if you will. But see, the problem is there's a difference between somebody's opinion and somebody with experience. And you got to know who you talking to so that you don't allow the rumblings around you to overly influence you in your decision that's yours to make and yours to accept the consequences of. Because people are a mess. Let me tell y'all some of the things we done heard in our day. Margaret said physical obligation is crazy. Say it again, big dog. JC said she was trying to get her to quit so she can apply for that job. Boy, JC must have had some experience. But in my lifetime, certainly as a counselor, I often hear people saying, you know, people will tell you to quit, to leave. They'll say it ain't worth it. They say you ought to stay too long. They'll tell you your relationship can work. They tell you that your business won't grow. They'll tell you even if you're trying to earn a degree, oh, it ain't worth it. But it always seems to me that the people who's telling you these things, in many cases, ain't either been what you going through, or ain't been down the road that you done been down, or can't see what's in front of you, or don't know all of your circumstances. And now I'm not implying to you all that you should give somebody your business. Matter of fact, just the opposite. Sometimes you need to keep Negroes out your business. But nonetheless, they never had your life assignment. And if I haven't been where you've been, I can't tell you how to feel, or I can't tell you what to do, or how long it should take, or how fast you should get there. And let's be clear. And I want y'all to understand, my throat is not as strong as it was. I'm getting over a little illness, so I might not be as aggressive tonight as I normally would be. But we live in a culture where people think that access equals authority. Let me say that again. The culture, certainly the Negro culture, the Black culture, where people think that their access to you means they got equal authority in your life and in your decisions. Just because somebody knows you does not mean they understand you. These ladies in the workplace, they know this other lady that's going through something because they work around her every day. And I don't care if you done worked around somebody for 10 years. You ain't qualified to tell that person how to respond to their feelings, because I dare you to say this. The average person telling you to walk away from your job is not going to pay your bills. I'm not telling you to stay at the job, because your situation might not be mine. If I walk away from my job today, it's not going to fiscally impact me the same way it does you. So that means I'm not qualified to tell you what to do. If you come to me for counseling, I can tell you, based on what you share with me, what might be some avenues to think about. All right? But I can definitely not tell you, Detective Pamela Black, what's going on, girl? Glad to see you. I definitely can't tell you how to handle what you're handling. All right? What's going on, Pamela Jeremy? Glad to see you as well. Marcus said, you going to let me crash on the couch as I walk away from the job? Hey, Marcus, you got a point. So some people know your name, but they don't know your struggle. And some people know your story, but they don't know your sacrifice. Some people know your smile, but they ain't really felt your depression. And because they don't understand the weight that you carry, they give lightweight advice for your heavyweight battles. That's probably too deep for y'all, but I'm going to say it again anyway. They will give lightweight advice for your heavyweight battle. People will tell married couples, stay together a little longer. Some people will say, get a divorce. People got the advice of a lifetime for a situation that they are not in. And I'm going to be fair with y'all. Sometimes it's some of the best Christians in the world to give you some advice that ain't necessarily right. Now, again, I'm not qualified to tell you what to do in your situation. Now, there are some well-meaning, well-educated, well-experienced people who can share with you their stories about how they've overcome. And in my opinion, when somebody with experience is giving you some insight, you ought to listen. But I'm going to share some things with you tonight that might make some of y'all a little bit uncomfortable, because I don't want you to confuse somebody else's experience and somebody else's outcome to that they should be able to tell you what to do in yours. They can tell you what worked or what did not work for them. Some people will say, let me tell you, if you're going through some struggles in your relationship, pray about it. And just keep marching down the road, and eventually God will move that individual to being what they should be in your life. Now, the truth is that's a possibility. But there's also a possibility because the person, what they went through may not have been as intense as yours. The advice they're giving you could get you killed. And I want you to understand something that I'm not telling you to leave or stay. I don't care which one you make in your life. But I do believe you have to evaluate that through your own prayers and with your own experiences. Somebody who ain't got somebody choking them every day shouldn't be telling you, if you do, just keep praying about it, because eventually you ain't going to have enough air in your lungs to get a prayer out. Somebody who's been through some infidelities can tell you, well, this is what I did, and it might help you. And if that's the burden of what you've been through, it might work in your life. But the way you feel about a broken promise or some infidelity might be different. So there's no cookie cutter method. You've got to take it in stride. You got to pray about it. You got to ask yourself, were you right in the situation? Was it something you may have done to do X, Y, Z? But it's a hot shame that people will tell you. I don't even want to say it like that. I'm going to hold off on that little cliche I was about to say. But I've seen people tell folks who was in school, going back to school, oh, you done made it far enough without a degree. You don't have to go back to school. All they gonna do is take your money. Well, how does that person telling you not to go back to school know whether or not getting your degree was part of your bucket list or part of the things that you always wanted to do? Maybe you ain't getting a degree because you care about it helping you to advance in the workplace. Maybe it's going to help you advance with feeling better about yourself. So you can't allow people who haven't done what you're trying to do to tell you not to do what you're getting ready to do. I know that's too much. It's too much. Because some of y'all are giving me the pitchforks. Don't get mad at me. Because I'm not saying that your advice or your answer is wrong. I'm saying you need to know whether or not you qualified to give that to the person that you're giving it to. Because folks will tell you to stick around through cheatings and beatings because they may have been able to handle it. But don't let nobody convince you that God said that you're supposed to stay in a situation where somebody going upside your head. That is not, they ain't going to find no scripture for that. And if they do, they wrote it themselves. There is a logical blueprint within the Bible that says if you are in a relationship that is filled with your moral and spiritual guidance, that if the head of your house is living right and doing right and you following him and the kids following you, that you should be able to have some level of longevity. I believe that to this day. But you can't trick people into thinking that no matter the circumstance that comes across your way, you should stay regardless because you made a commitment before God. Sure did. And you're supposed to honor it as much as possible, but not to the point where you wind up going to meet him early because you chose to be with somebody who was violent against you. And most of the time, it's some dudes telling you to stay with somebody who's a violent dude. I don't know how any woman, and I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say it with my chest. I don't know how any woman could tell another woman to stay in an abusive situation and then sit back when you got a broken arm, when you got broken ribs, when you battered and bruised, and keep talking about come by my house so we can talk about it. I don't need to come by your house to talk about these bruises. I can go talk to the person in the mirror. Y'all gonna make me mad. See, the next thing that happens is, so this lady at work who's contemplating what should she do while she's mad about the way she appears to be being or receiving some dialogue from her supervisor, I'm assuming. She's talking about turning in some keys. One is talking about, yeah, I wouldn't let them talk to me like that and I'd quit. Another one saying, think about your bills. JC said, and violence isn't just physical. JC, you're absolutely right. Ladies, I am not marginalizing any experience. And I'm not just talking about ladies, because there are men who exist in physically abusive relationships, emotionally abusive, just like women. I don't want, if I don't say something, people, please don't take it as that I'm saying that those of you who have had some different outcome, that I'm speaking about yours in a marginalized way, because I'm not. See, sometimes people will advise you from their own pain. Okay? Now, they're not telling you to trust because they got betrayed. They tell you not to love because they got hurt. They tell you not to invest because they failed. They tell you not to start because they was afraid to start. So pain has a way of becoming a universal language. Sometimes people don't mean to sabotage your life. They're just protecting their fear or projecting their fear onto you. Oh, if I was you, I wouldn't go back to school. It's too much work. How you know it's too much work for me if I'm focused? Oh, girl, I wouldn't try to get my license because somebody can drive you. Well, what if I really want to drive? See, you got to know who you got in your inner circle, and you need to have folks in your circle that will question your logic and challenge you to think before you make a decision. Now, people, a lot of times folks will normalize quitting. They'll normalize dysfunction. They will normalize mediocrity. They will normalize emotional instability. Because a lot of people are comfortable in calamity. Don't get mad at me. And stop sending me stuff in my DM. If you want to send me something, put it up here so the world can see what you're saying. See, some of y'all are comfortable in calamity, so you tell folks to stay in foolishness because you love foolishness. Facts. You should never let somebody that loves being incarcerated tell you ain't nothing to it. Ain't nothing to what? Ain't nothing to being locked up? Man, I did that little bit. Hold on. You got somebody telling you, don't be worried about that little bit of time that they're going to give you. That person is not going to be in the cell next to you. I don't care if that's, well, it ain't but 6 months. Do you know what 6 months of your life feels like? Yeah, 6 months might not mean anything to somebody with 10 years. But 6 months is an eternity when somebody talking about you being incarcerated. So why you gonna get advice about committing a crime and going to jail from somebody that love being in jail? You need to go talk to somebody that love freedom. I know that's too much. It's too much for y'all. Y'all ain't with me tonight. See, stop letting people spiritualize your suffering. Now, I don't even want y'all mad with me, but I'm gonna walk down this road, and you can come with me or you can stay wherever you're at. See, there's this dangerous thing that people do when they give advice. They try to spiritualize your suffering. And people will start telling you, just pray about it. God hates divorce. Everybody cheats. Nobody's perfect. He just hit you one time. Just stick it out. Be patient. Meanwhile, you being lied to, manipulated, cheated on, mentally destroyed, physically abused, all of these things, and you got somebody in your corner telling you why you getting choked. I promise you, if you just pray a little bit longer, it's going to change that killer that you with. Now, y'all know I talk to God. I works with him, work for him, love him. He never gave me that advice. He has never told me to tell somebody that's in a physically abusive relationship, just pray it out. It ain't happening like that. Now, before some of my colleagues in the spiritual realm get mad, I'm not saying that your spiritual faith can't change circumstances. That is not what I'm saying. Because I know somebody probably about to blow my phone up right now, but hold on, because I ain't finna talk to you right now. But I'm saying stop giving bad advice that you can't stand on business on when it don't turn out the way you thought. Because somebody being married to one of Satan's minions who feels like that it's okay to take them through hell and back, your advice to them came off your experience, and you weren't married to the devil. You might have been dealing with somebody who just had a few problems. You might have been dealing with somebody who had a few setbacks. It could have been that person that you were with was fundamentally to their core a good person, and they was just learning and growing. But stop getting around here telling folks that are being mentally and physically tormented in their own dwellings that you can just sit back and say your prayers at night, and eventually God gonna stop him from choking you. Stop allowing people who have this need to be in your business to give you advice about your business that they got no experience in. Now, I'm not saying all advice is bad advice. I'm just saying you need to know whether you are mentally capable of processing all the advice and weeding out that which doesn't fit your circumstances as opposed to that does. This lady that was at the job today talking about quitting, if she quits because the first person said, I wouldn't let nobody on the job make me feel that way, then what you need to understand is, how are you going to navigate? Because you're not going to come to your circle of friends and tell them if the reason why your boss or supervisor said something to you that you didn't like was because of something that you did that was in violation of a policy. See, most of the time people give you advice based on emotions. Your friends will tell you the advice because they love and care about you, or they your ride or die, but sometimes you ain't giving them both sides of the story. As a leader, as a counselor, I got to know what happened and why it happened before I give some advice. Sometimes I got to step back, evaluate. I need to know, do I need to ask you some more questions before I give you some solutions? Because if I don't know whether or not you told me the full story and I give you some bad advice, it could impact the rest of your life. And then you looking at me, your family looking at me, everybody looking at me talking about, you told Ed to do this. No, I advised Ed off what Ed shared with me, but I should have asked some more questions. See, I want y'all to process this. I know somebody who is a mentor and a friend to me. Matter of fact, one time she told me, she said, we're going to be best friends. Now, her advice to me in situations, I give some credence to it because she's seasoned, if you will, both in age and in life experience. So sometimes she might share as we like to say, a nugget of information. Now, I don't take nothing nobody tell me and immediate respond to it, because I got to sit back and think about, does it fit my life? But let's say for the purposes of this story, what JC talking about? JC said, but I thought the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. She said, I feel like most people only tell the story that favors them. Well, JC, let's talk about this. And then I'm gonna get back to my BFF, if you will. Anybody telling you that the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know probably could have started off saying, none of this matters unless you love devils. I don't even really want to be impacted by no devil. So now, JC, that is a slogan that I've heard, but I'm gonna be honest with you. If it starts off with better the devil, you can get the devil up out of here. I don't need that kind of advice. But let me get back to my compadre, my seasoned BFF. Now this seasoned BFF has been in the life game for some time, has had her own share of, as they said in the church world, the ups and downs. Now, when she speaks, because of her life travels, it would command that somebody at least consider what she's saying. Now, that don't mean it's right for me, but I at least got to listen, because I like to hear the theories, if you will, of people who's traveled in different paths that I have, because just in case I find myself on that road, I might be able to reflect back on the blueprint or map that they were telling me about. So one time she was telling me about that there was some parts in her life that may have been less favorable, and how she and her family navigated through certain hurdles. And to be honest with you, when I first heard the stories, I was like, she lying. But then I had an opportunity to meet some of her families, and I was like, man, you know what? I can believe it, because these people seem like genuinely good people. And her story is one that, because I don't have permission to share the details, I won't, because I like to protect the innocent. But when she was sharing these things with me, her story was somewhat remarkable. Certainly in the Negro community. What's up, Lacey Greer? Glad to see you. And so as I'm listening to her story and recounting some of the things that she shared, and these were bullet points for your life for you to consider, I was like amazed. And I'm glad that it worked for her, because she's got all these components. She's active in her community. She attempts to do the right thing. She got a slick mouth. We'll talk a little reckless from time to time, but she is a fundamentally good, seasoned person, and her family is, and you can tell that the direction that prayer and these trials and tribulations and the willingness to work together, it worked for them. I truly can use them as an example. But I can't take their story and apply to every situation, because some of the things that I heard did not involve this seasoned veteran of life being physically dominated in the situation. I didn't get any memos about some of the torturous things that some of you go through. And while it doesn't mean that she hasn't jumped over certain hills and valleys, what it does mean is her advice would work more than likely with somebody in similar circumstances. But when you change the variables, you got to take into consideration, and I'm saying this to all of y'all like me who like to ear hustle on situations in the workplace or in personal lives, you got to know whether or not you can stand on business with your advice if your advice ain't right for that person. Now, some of y'all are saying, well, Sinclair, what you talking about? Somebody telling you to leave work and quit a job because you didn't like what somebody says could be good advice if you told them the whole story And if their personal and professional convictions align with yours. But somebody telling you to walk away from a job because you didn't like the fact that your supervisor told you that you were, let's say, insubordinate or disrespectful, and maybe they wrote you up, you need to know whether or not the person was those things in that moment. Just like the person saying, hey, you better stay here because you know you got bills to pay. Well, if I ain't done nothing wrong, all money ain't what? Ain't good money. But I need to know what the cause and effect is. Just like all jobs ain't good jobs, if you gotta take some type of negative abuse, see, you gotta believe in yourself. You gotta believe where you are spiritually. Because let me tell you this. And again, I say this with all due respect because I know my personal situation isn't like other people. But if my personal situation was just like yours, because of how I am as a human being, they're going to ask the shepherd, look at my armor bearer out there. What's going on? Glad to be back. Like I said, my voice is a little raspy. Got a little razzle dazzle about myself. But I stand on a different code. See, some of y'all got to ask yourself, how much are you putting up with did you cause? And what are you doing to stand on your personal conviction? See, some of y'all ain't built like me. Robin Williams, what's going on, girl? See, I will walk away from a situation on principle alone. But I'm willing to go cut grass to pay my bills. Some of y'all ain't willing to do that. I'm willing to go flip a burger to pay my bills, to stand on business about my personal conviction. Because I'll pray about it, talk to Jesus and be like, okay, hey, I'm about to get up out of here. But if you ain't willing to go do what it takes to take care of your responsibilities, you might not be able to stand on your convictions at the same rate that I do. So if I'm going to give you advice, I'm going to need to know what your game plan is with the hereafter. I'm just telling you. Because you can be working somewhere getting paid while your emotional life, your spiritual life, your professional life is getting destroyed. And I'm going to tell y'all something else too. And many of you have heard me say this on other shows that I've done. So I'm going to go on and put this out there. For all of you all, stop telling somebody else how long it takes for them to heal from something you ain't been through. Now, because sometimes it may take a little longer, that's not your place. How can someone tell you, oh, you know, you should be over that by now? Well, I need to know if you have never been slapped, if you have never been choked, if you have never been beaten, how can you tell me how long it takes for me to get over it? I just want to know. What qualifies you to tell a person how soon to get over what somebody did to them to make them feel less than? And y'all good for that. Some of y'all think just because I said this, it's all good. Now, on the flip side, you can't tell nobody they got to be miserable forever just because it'll make you feel good. I done heard it on the other side. Oh, Lord, you coming out of a situation. You need to hold up. You need to stay down for a while. You need to take you some time and heal. Negro, if I've been through hell and back and I made it back, I might be healed the day I left. If a man or woman is in a toxic situation, a physically abusive situation, they might be healed when they don't have to keep walking around with their head down because it makes you feel normalized because folks got a time limit on it. How long before he or she can get back in the proverbial game? Your child fall off the bike. You don't tell them, don't get back on the bike for 12 months because you need to let the fear of riding encompass your spirit. What you do, you tell them, you fell off, you spray some Neosporin on it, put one of them old cheap dollar store bandages and tell them get back on the bike. Get to pedaling again. Somebody trying to learn how to swim. What y'all do with them? Throw them back out there in the water. They in there bubbling up for air, barely making it. You got a philosophy. If I throw you back in, eventually you're going to swim or drown. But when it comes to your personal life, when it comes to your relationships, when it comes to your professional life and things that impact you emotionally, you're talking about take your time. Dwell on it for a while. You need to breathe. And what does that mean to most of y'all? You need to lock yourself in with a tub of ice cream. You need to eat the ice cream. You need to think about details every single day of what you done been. If you don't shut up, you can't tell a person how long it takes. And also, stop giving people advice you wouldn't give your own loved ones. Stop giving people advice you wouldn't give your own son or daughter. See, that's the tricky part right there. Some of y'all give double-tongued advice. You would tell somebody, I ain't going to let nobody on the job talk to me like that. But then your son or daughter talking about quitting that job, you know what you're going to tell them? Hold on now, you don't need to quit this job before you got another job. You got some bills to pay because they live with you. Yeah, I'm talking about y'all. If the advice you give, you won't give to the person you love the most, don't give it to me. Yeah, that right there. Nikki Carter, what you talking about? Why? Leave me alone, Nikki. See, that's that piece right there. Y'all will tell people out there in the street, oh, girl, yes, I done been through some things. Thomas used to slap me from time to time, but he stopped eventually. I think you should stick around and go to church and try to take Thomas to church and pray about it. And eventually he gonna stop slapping you. And that's what you tell your church folks. But let your daughter come home and tell you that Leroy is slapping her. You gonna go in your purse, get your pistol out. You going down the road. Leroy just as good as dead because don't nobody hit my baby. You ain't bring her in the world. You ain't got no business putting your hands on her. I kill you. You calling her daddy, telling them Leroy's out there slapping your daughter. Everybody in your family got their 6-shooters out. But why you didn't tell that to the person at the church with you? Why you didn't tell that to your homegirl? You told them to pray about it. They at home getting slapped again because of you, but you told your daughter, don't you never let nobody slap you. Yes, that right there. Make sure whatever advice you're giving, you can stand on business, because if not, you're a hypocrite. Yeah, that. That's just like y'all saying, oh, I can't stand a drug dealer. They need to lock them all up. You sitting up watching TV at the job, at the church, y'all everywhere talking about, I hate drug dealers. They killing the community. But Devontae, your middle child, been selling dope for 6 years. He coming in the house with TVs that ain't in boxes. He giving you wads of cash to help out with the bills. You know John Blamewell, he ain't got a 9 to 5. Are you anti-drugs or drug dealers, or are are you just anti-drug dealers that ain't in your house, that you didn't give birth to? Uh-oh, Nikki Carter said we all on our way to talk to Leroy. Hey, and should be. I'm not mad at the ones that's going to see Leroy. I'm mad at the person telling everybody else to just hold on. You made the commitment. He gonna stop choking you. He gonna stop cheating. Maybe he will. But you're saying it to somebody, but you won't say the same thing to your own child. It's smoke in the city if anybody mess with yours. You out here in these streets talking about, hey, you talking to the dudes out there, hey, listen, you can change. You can be better. And they may. You know, you can work through it. But when it's your son and he come home crying, or he come home because he's being emotionally destroyed, your answer ain't the same. You ain't talking about go back home and work it out. You talking about, look, if all this is going on, you need to do something different, son. I love you and I don't want you to ruin your life. That's what you tell your son, but you telling somebody else's son something different. You a hypocrite. What are you really standing on? The business and advice that you give to those in the street ought to be the same thing you stand on, even if it's your own family members. I'm going to stop talking to y'all because I see some of y'all mad. Some of y'all ain't going to talk to me for a few weeks, and it's okay. I ain't got nothing but love for you. But I've searched low and high trying to find information that can justify some of the foolishness that we advise people professionally, personally, or otherwise, when I would much rather you mind your own business. Talking about, oh, my favorite is God don't give you more than you can bear. Now, whoo! Now, Ty, I'm gonna have to depart ways, which I fundamentally believe that God will put tests on you. I don't know if he'll give you more than you can bear, but then you got to know whether or not some of the stuff you bearing came from God. Because remember, earlier, somebody, I think it was JC, or maybe it was Nikki Carter, said the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. See, some of y'all out there with devils. So no matter what's going on in the other realm, if you hanging out with Satan all day, your impact might be different. I know some of y'all going, I should say something to my buddy, because I know my buddy right now probably texting me. If I was to check my phone right now, I know I probably got a little friendly banter, a little hate mail. What's how you talking about? She said, I don't disagree with your take. I'm just saying that the statement is being used to justify people staying in the back. Absolutely. And let me say this as a matter of principle. I am not anti-work things out. I'm for that. I'm pro that. I believe when possible, you stay for as long as you can stay. You don't leave one day sooner than what you are ready to, but you also don't stay one day longer than you should. You got to know the balance that you're dealing with. You ain't got to rush out because the first thing occurs. People can change. People can be better. Normally, good people find a way to get themselves on the right track. But everybody ain't a good person, and you need to know what you're dealing with. I'm just telling you, some of you ear hustlers, some of you lifeline injectors, that you don't need to be giving the advice if you ain't never been where I've been. You can't tell me how hot the stove is if you ain't never touched it. You can tell me it can fry chicken, but you don't know if it'll cause a 3rd-degree burn if you ain't never got a burn. And some of y'all just fundamentally just be talking. See, sometimes you got to put yourself in a situation where you pray for some discernment. And everybody that's older isn't necessarily wiser. Everybody that's spiritual isn't healthy, and everybody that's successful is not fulfilled. You got to learn how to evaluate the voices in your circle. Ask yourself, does the person advising me have any level of integrity? Does the person's lifestyle match their words? Have they survived what I'm facing, and do they produce peace or confusion? Do they challenge me or control me? You need to know what you're dealing with. See, because I'm going to tell you like this. Some people say to me, well, how can you, a man of God, how can you say certain things? It's because I am that I can tell you the truth. I had somebody not long ago. I ain't even going to call their name, but see, people like to challenge me with questions about social issues. And they like to question me about things, and generally speaking, they are going to pick some things that they believe are tough in nature for somebody who may work for the Lord to answer. And most of the time they'll ask you they'll throw you some softball questions. What do you think about sin? Well, Negro, it ain't great. Then they'll try to get a little deeper with, what do you think about infidelity? I don't like it. What do you think about murder? Shouldn't do it. But that ain't good enough. They want to deep dive. What do you think about fornication and all these things? And I ponder before answering, because they're searching for something to justify the way they feel. So often I say these things to them. You and I are accountable for not simply what we do, but why we did it. There is this analogy that no sin is greater than the next. So while you are challenging me to produce a theory and be in support of the one thing that you may be against, yes, people may say, what do you think and feel about infidelity and fornication? But that same person is not going to ask you, what do you feel about judging folks? What do you feel about those who know somebody needs help, but they don't go help them? What do you feel about somebody who, though they may give you some advice, that they are doing it with a little hateism? They're not going to ask you about the things that they may suffer from themselves. So I say this, if you want to know what I think about any of it, I think that all of it falls up under the scope of no sin is greater than the next. If you got enough time to watch my doorstep, that must mean yours is clean. Now, if y'all don't want people judging, you keep them out your business. But if you let me in your business, I don't get mad when you ask me a question, because I'm a grown man. And you can't make me doubt my space in life, because I'm already good with God. And there may be some answers that I give you that you don't like because somebody else told you something different. But I bet the person that told you that won't say he or she who is without sin cast the first stone. See, because if you're walking around all day judging people, you know I got a heaven or hell to put them in. So why you worried about what they doing when you need to be getting your corner of the capitalist area squared away? You need to be trying to get to Jesus on your own doorstep. See, that splinter in one person is a splinter in another. And that doesn't mean you can't talk to people. I don't want y'all to think that I mean that tonight, that it's not good to have loving and caring people in your corner. And we don't all will disseminate information the same way. I'm telling you that before you start activating your actions on the advice of others, You need to get yourself in the right spiritual space. You need to know if you professionally are doing what you're supposed to do. You need to know if you are doing the right things personally, because that might impact the answer that you get from somebody else. I would dare to say, if you told a person, I went in my boss office and I was told not to do something and I did it anyway, and for that I got written up, they probably would say to you, you shouldn't have did what you did. But if you leave out the part about how you impacted the write-up, then of course people are going to assume somebody did somebody that they care for wrong. We all, including myself, are from time to time guilty of not being the best version of ourselves. But you are not measured on perfection. You are measured on your efforts from one day to the next, from one person to the next. And that measurement is not in a group format. It is not based on what you and your homegirls or your homeboys do. It's based on what you do as an individual. And regardless to whether or not you ever picked up any version of a spiritual book, be it the Codexes, be it the Geneva Bible, the King James Version, the Torah, it don't matter which one you pick up. What matters is, are you intentional about being the best version of yourself? And are the people who you're surrounding yourself with, do they have the same life and effective goals that you do? And if the answer is no, you need to find you a different group of people. You need to try to be around people who are striving for success if you want to be successful. Because if you hang out with people who don't want to go nowhere, there's a 90% chance you ain't going nowhere. You cannot catch a ride with a person standing still. That's too much for y'all. Y'all know what? I'm about to get up off the show. It's almost 9 o'clock. I'm tired. What little voice I got is almost gone. But I hope y'all got something out of this message tonight. And I hope that you will focus on being a better version of yourselves, but also not being afraid to evaluate your circle. Because if I let you in my circle, I expect that you have my best interests. In the moment that you don't, you won't be in my circle. Not because I may not love and care about you, not because I might not like you no more, not because we don't like eating at the same restaurants no more, but because in my life I can't afford not to make the right mental and emotional decisions, and I can't be jaded by somebody who doesn't understand the real me. Don't be judging me off what somebody told you. Anyway, look, people, I got to go. I don't want to play with y'all no more right now. I'll see y'all next week.